Welcome everyone to this week's Ravnica Guild Deck Tech. I'm Joseph, and this week we are looking at Dimir, and our commander today is Shipwreck Singer. Shipwreck Singer is a 1/2 Siren for blue-black that has flying, but also has pay 1 and a blue, target creature an opponent controls attacks this turn if able, and pay 1 and a black and tap, attacking creatures get -1/-1 until end of turn. Now this commander interested me because it's allowing us to repeatedly force our opponent's creatures to attack. Think about that for a second. This is a Dimir commander. It's not Rakdos, it's not Gruul. Blue and black are right at the bottom when you think of a color pair that actually wants to encourage combat, and yet we've got this commander. One thing that's very important about this ability is that it is not goad. Our commander can force a creature to attack, but our opponents still get to decide where that swing goes. Our commander's second ability does actually protect us a little. It acts as a shrink effect, which can actually reduce toughness too, which is a little unusual, and can even allow it to act as a mini board wipe against dorks or against token decks. But it's still only a -1 reduction, so we're going to need to protect ourselves a lot better than that. So what is our strategy with this deck? We're going to force our opponents into combats they don't want, and then make ourselves the least appealing target so they swing at each other. And we will always have our finger on the scale to make sure we come out on top. So, right off the bat, we're planning to get a lot of use from our commander. But let's look for some backups. Now when it comes to goad abilities in PDH, we get just a Jeering Homunculus. It's not the worst rate, it's a 0/4 with goad on ETB for 2 mana, but it's not a backup commander by any means. However, with a little digging, I was able to find Norit. Now, it's a little wordy, but this guy is the perfect backup. He's a 1/1 imp for 3 and a black that has tap, untap target blue creature, or tap, force target non-wall creature to attack. If creature cannot attack, destroy it at end of turn. Use this ability only during target creature's controller's turn before the attack, and it cannot target creatures brought under their controller's control this turn. So, this is the perfect backup for our commander. Even better, its ability activates with just a tap, meaning we get to actually keep up our mana and use it for some other fun stuff, while this guy stays safely out of the way while our opponents have to swing or else lose that creature. But once again, our opponents get to choose where to swing. So, how do we keep them swinging at each other and not at us? Now, we could just fill this deck with walls, but then our opponents would just throw their creatures at us out of spite and trust their creatures would survive bouncing off whatever barriers we put up. No. We have to make them fear swinging into us. And the best way to do that is with Death Touch. This deck is stuffed with creatures that will guarantee any combat will make our opponents trade their best creature for our worst. I mean, who's going to trade a beefed up 10/10 for a measly hired poisoner? No one. That's who. They'll swing at our opponent who will be forced to block. And then, wouldn't it be funny if that block still turned into a trade? We can make that happen with Alchemist's Gift or Lash of Thorns, so both our opponents will lose something. On the other hand, what if our opponents did swing at us? Our creatures are fragile. They'll only survive one combat and then the barrier will be down. Well, yes, unless our opponent's creatures lose all of their power. We're going to use Hysterical Blindness and a Lethargy Trap to make our enemy's creatures harmless, so our Death Touch army can safely move in for the kill. And anything that's too big, we can remove with Disperse or select for inspection to bounce it away before it has a chance to connect. And in case we don't have those in hand, we can give our Death Touch creatures First Strike. Bladed Pinions is the perfect equipment, giving any creature flying and First Strike, but even better is going to be Tidal Flats. Again, old card, very wordy. But basically, at the cost of 2 blue, we give our entire board First Strike against any non-flying creature, and our opponents will have to pay for each creature they want to be blocked normally. And if our opponents are watching this, it can still really eat into their tempo and mana. But if they aren't, then they're going to lose their best creatures. We can also take advantage with forcing combat using Vampiric Bond and Contaminated Bond, which are going to punish our opponents or gain us life each time the targeted creature swings. We can also use Contempt, a recurring bounce effect, to lock out our opponent's best creature. And don't forget, whenever a creature swings, it taps. And we'll be punishing our opponents for this using Murderous Compulsion, Betrayal, and Seizures, giving us the options to either remove creatures, draw from them tapping, or punishing our opponents. In the right scenario, these cards can just shut off an opponent's deck, particularly if they have a commander that has a tap effect. Now, how are we going to win? Our deck's main strategy is pushing our opponents to hit each other and removing their creatures. However, eventually they'll get tired of us pulling the strings and will purposely swing into our creatures to remove our wall of Death Touch. We're going to counter that with several pieces of Graveyard Recursion, including Death Denied and Midnight Recovery, which we can then staple onto our flying commander to get its trigger again and again. But the best way we're going to close out the game is by using Eternal Thirst and Sadistic Glee. With all of the combats we're going to be forcing, and especially with our Death Touch creatures, death will be in the air, and we will quickly be able to make even our smallest creatures into a huge threat. And that is my Shipwreck Singer deck. This is a really unique commander for Dimir, with a focus on combat that can really take advantage of the multiplayer format of PDH. It can be a little tricky to close the game, but if we play this right, our opponents will kill each other for us. This deck is going to cost us $17.30. The deck list is in the description. Remember to like and subscribe, and come back next week when we are going to go exponential in Golgari.